Larry's terrific. He said, you know what? He's boiling it down to brass tacks here. You know, you're going to have an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, and I've said this as well, to reduce the size and scope of government like you never knew you had. Let's listen in.
All right, folks, Russ Vogt will seize this opportunity. That's the subject of the riff. Look, nobody's thrilled about government shutdowns. They're disruptive, they're acrimonious, disorderly. They get a lot more public attention than they really deserve. Meanwhile, there's no economic or stock market impact. In fact, as I said, a couple of the stock indexes actually hit record highs again today.
That's my point as well.
Shutdowns don't affect essential programs either. Not affect Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits, military operations, or others. But we do have a shutdown, and I'm going to say it. This shutdown provides an opportunity to greatly reduce the size and scope of the federal government. And when that door opens, it's important to walk through it. What's more, the quarterback of this opportunity is Russ Vogt, the OMB director. I can't think of a better person to be in that exact spot at exactly this moment. Russ has been working hard on these issues for many years.
Yes, he has. And you know, Doge was working hard on these issues as well. So he's talking about the OMB director, and the OMB director is saying, okay, well, where's the fat right now? Where can we save some money? And don't forget what Donald Trump told everybody. Do I have this sound for you? In a press conference late yesterday afternoon, he basically said, hey, you know what? We can actually do a lot of good stuff here. We can actually move forward with a lot of the plans that, you know, we wouldn't otherwise have been able to do. Now, again, you know, you don't love this. It's not ideal to have to be in a situation where you are cutting jobs. It is going to have an effect, certainly on the local economy there, without a doubt. But, you know, the reality is there's going to be a chance to actually do more than I think anybody actually anticipated, which means you're going to get rid of some of these jobs that you don't need. And I'm sorry, but there's a lot of jobs. There's a lot of jobs that you just don't need. So, you know, he's kind of echoing what Larry is saying here. He's saying that, you know, there's jobs that we can get rid of that we might not have been able to get rid of before. And that's perhaps the upside of all this. Let's listen in.
What you're doing. Thank you very much, Linda. Okay, any questions, please?
Mr. President, as we inch closer to a government shutdown this morning, you said you might do a lot of layoffs. If Doge is already reducing the federal workforce, why is it necessary to link more federal jobs cut to a shutdown?
Well, the Democrats want to shut it down, so when you shut it down, you have to do layoffs. So we'd be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected, and the Democrats, they're going to be Democrats. As you know, this country, no country can afford to pay for illegal immigration, health care for everybody that comes into the country, and that's what they're insisting. And obviously I have an obligation to not accept that. That would affect everybody. You know, when I see what we're doing with AI and all the plants that are opening up in the country, $17 trillion is coming. And if you compare that to Biden had, in 4 years, less than $1 trillion. We have 17 trillion, more than that. I think it's going to be much more than that, David. By the end of this year, I think it's going to be far over that. It's a record. It's already a record in 8 months. It's a record by a lot. And so we're doing well as a country, so the last thing we want to do is shut it down. But a lot of good can come down from shutdowns. We can get rid of a lot of things that we didn't want, and they'd be Democrat things, but they want open borders. They want men playing in women's sports. They want transgender for everybody. They never stop, and they don't learn. We won an election in a landslide. They just don't learn. So we have no choice. I have to do that for the country. Yes.
They don't ever learn. I mean, they really don't ever learn. I'm sitting there going like, how can any group of people be so enormously stupid? I mean, the trans sports, I'm sorry, forget about it. Like, you just lost the whole country with that one, except for some weird minutia of academics. Okay, academics don't control the world. Guess what? Donald Trump won the popular vote, and he won the Electoral College. And right now, when you look at these numbers, he's winning again because he stands for something. And people do want law and order. And people, you know, again, nothing, we recognize we are a country of immigrants. Let's find sensible ways to do this. Let's strategically say, hey, you know what? And not everybody has to have a PhD, But we need, say, nurses, and we need, dishwashers, and we need drivers, and we need people in the sciences, and we need computer engineers. Like, let's actually have a strategic plan where we say, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then we go out and find those people and we recruit them, and like it's a process, right, to get into the United States. Instead, right now, it's like, come one, come all, and we'll give you free everything. I mean, hey, when you get the Roosevelt Hotel with daily maid service, and a $300 card to go buy your ethnically appropriate food every single day. Who wouldn't want that, for goodness sakes? Who wouldn't take that deal? So we're in a situation now where, the government shut down. Listen, here's the good news. Anybody on Social Security or Medicaid or anything, the programs are all going to stay there. That's not getting cut. But the reality is we do have an opportunity to kind of look long and hard at what else is there, and what should go, and what really ultimately our government should be. Because if you have a view of government as being limited in scope and really being there to say, secure the country and defend the country, then that limit would actually mean that in good conscience you couldn't say, okay, we're going to give $1 trillion to all these states for all these various healthcare programs that we have no control over. No, you would leave that up to the states, would you not? For them to try and manage it. But that's not actually what's going on here. It's disturbing to see. I want to play another clip of Mike Johnson, this one here on CNN, and he's sort of explaining what's going on with Chuck Schumer. You look at these poll numbers, again, being so disastrous, absolutely disastrous for the Democrats. It's hard to even comprehend like how anybody could make so many bad decisions over and over and over again. But sure enough, they did. And you know what? They're feeling the pain, right? They're feeling the pain. But let me get to this, because as we talk about AOC directing all of this, and I have a big feeling she is quite a big reason behind all that we see going on. Let's hear a little bit more from Mike Johnson. He's the one who originally brought that up in a segment he did on CNN.
Once this goes into effect, which is after the midterms, people will feel cuts who are not necessarily...
Yeah, those young able-bodied men who are sitting at home playing video games? That's a big portion of it.
Not just them.
Look at the studies. Look at the studies.
But when you see the $1 trillion that they do want to put back into this, you don't think that what they are doing is politically palpable for even a lot of people in your district?
There's one reason and one reason alone that they're making this argument.
They will see cuts to Medicaid.
Here's the motivation. Let's just cut to the chase. Chuck Schumer is doing this. The reason he switched his position he's had for 30 years right now and doing the exact opposite that he said in March of this year, as recently as March, is because he is in political jeopardy. He's afraid he's going to get a challenge from his left flank, and AOC or someone else will run against him for his Senate seat. So Chuck Schumer has to put up a fight and pretend that he's fighting the president, fighting Republicans.
I've been in this town maybe even longer than you, and so I've seen politics played on all kinds of things.
That's fair, but I'm telling you what's happening right now.
I want to talk about something you said this morning about Chuck Schumer. You said Schumer has now handed the keys to the kingdom.
I'm just going to jump in. I mean, was that not awkward? She's like, I know more than you, buddy. I have been in this town longer than you. And he's like, no, I'm actually trying to give you the read of the room for the here and now. And then she's like, well, I'm going to move on to something else. I mean, that was really, really awkward. You could just feel the tension in the room. Way to go, Mike.
The executive branch, and that a shutdown can provide an opportunity to, quote, downsize the government. I just want to be clear. Do you think that the OMB, the executive branch, should use this shutdown as an excuse to permanently fire federal workers?
Well, I can tell you right now, the president has been a benevolent president. He is mitigating the harm right now. OMB has not come out of the blocks and fired a bunch of people. That's not what's happening.
But do you think they should?
Well, it provides an opportunity. Chuck Schumer has provided the Trump White House with an opportunity to downsize the government on priorities and policies and personnel that they deem to be non-essential. Now, Chuck Schumer has very different priorities about federal government than
What's your priority?
Republicans.
You're the Speaker of the House. You can
I certainly want to downsize the size and scope of the federal government.
So you think that the people who are maybe furloughed right now, or even working without pay, should be on the chopping block for
No,
permanent
I wouldn't.
dismissal?
I wouldn't say that, because the people that are furloughed right now are hardworking American
So
federal workers.
who should be fired during the shutdown?
I don't know. You'd have to show me a proposal of what is being
I don't
presented.
have a proposal.
I
I'm
don't have it
asking you.
either, but I have a conference call with Russ Vought at OMB in about 2 hours, and we're going to ask him about the details of that.
Whoa. So again, you're going to have massive layoffs coming. Russ Vought is working on it. And you know, Doge had already done a lot of work on this. And they kept running into roadblocks, but now apparently you're home free. You can get rid of a lot of people that you don't need. So maybe that's going to save a lot of money. I think taxpayers would kind of like that. Again, you know, we're not for anybody losing their job, but when you look at where the USAID money was going, for goodness sakes, that's your hard-earned tax dollars, right? That were going to the Trans Opera in Colombia. I mean, and this is coming from someone who likes opera, okay? But the Trans Opera in Colombia, like, what is USAID tax money going to that for goodness sakes? Or the trans comic book, I mean, there were a lot of trans things. They were really pushing that agenda, which was like the most stupid agenda, like of all agendas. Like, I mean, that one I'll never, I mean, the history books will be written about that, because that was the most stupid move they could have ever made. Truly, could have ever possibly made. I mean, what did they think? They were going to drive the whole country crazy? They kind of did. I mean, when you think of the vitriol out there. And Jimmy Kimmel's part of that. His constant anger, as we began this show talking about ABC and how Disney's kind of in a tough spot right now because they brought the guy back thinking things were going to go okay. They got a one-night bump, as I told you they would, and that was that. Ratings are still tanking, just like the Democrat Party is tanking. Okay, so we're going to get through this, and I'm sorry to members of the military, for example, that, you know, are still having to work and they don't get paid. It's not right. It's not fair. But would it be right and fair to say we're going to charge taxpayers another $1 trillion because we want all this USAID money for the Trans Opera in, you know, Colombia or Peru, wherever the heck it was? Do we really want to be doing that? Do we want to give USAID money to, I don't know, Politico? Politico, which was the place that they chose to release that letter with the 51 ex-spooks that decided Mike Morrell, former deputy director of the CIA, that they were going to try and thwart any nonsense about this Hunter Biden laptop, which was for real and was being investigated by the FBI. And yet they came out with a letter saying exactly the opposite. I mean, it's like March 2020 when they came out with lots of letters and mandates saying exactly the opposite. I mean, they have had their way over and over and over again. They shut down the other side. You know, I realize that Trump is kind of vocal about things. Perhaps he shouldn't be so vocal. He just speaks his mind. Biden, on the other hand, if he had anything to do with anything, because that's certainly debatable given his mental health challenges, mental decline, I should say, mental decline challenges. There was a whole team working behind the scenes to make sure that they shut up other people. And they did so really effectively. I mean, for goodness sakes, taking the president right off of Twitter, taking the president off of Facebook, making sure that certain viewpoints could not be heard. You heard Mark Zuckerberg told the entire story to one Joe Rogan about how the Biden administration was putting so much pressure on them. Well, it wasn't just the media that they were putting pressure on. It was also the financial community. It was also banks. I mean, I told you myself, I mean, I got calls like I'd never gotten before. I'm like, why am I suddenly so popular with my bank that I've had for 20 some odd years? No, suddenly they wanted to know all about me and we had to talk regularly. I'm like, why are they calling me constantly? Well, under the Obama and Biden administrations, you had regulators, of course, pressuring these banks to, in fact, close accounts for some industries. I've talked to friends in the crypto industry that ran into this, and for individuals that they didn't like. I mean, we've heard that the Trump family, I can confirm that, members of the Trump family could not get bank accounts. It's nuts, right? So this was all politically motivated. It was called debanking, and it happened, and it trampled on the freedoms of everyday Americans. Everyday Americans, everyday business owners, everyday citizens that constitutionally had a right to open a bank account, but you had the government suddenly leaning in and trying to get in. Oh, they wanted to get in really hard. I remember when Janet Yellen, you know, I used to call her from Cinderella, you know, the fairy godmother of the markets, bibbidi bobbidi boo. Let me just lower interest rates again and we'll print a little more money and cause a little inflation, but who cares? Well, she wanted to get into everybody's bank account if you had more than $600 in transactions, because somehow they were going to catch the the big fish that way. Oh, that's not what that was about. That was about getting into the banks once again. So thankfully, President Trump is taking decisive action to stop this, and that's important. His executive order calls out regulators who abused their power, and there were ones that did that, and makes it very clear that debanking has got to end. Once and for all, no more. But lasting reform, you know what? It's going to require more than an order. It's going to require Congress to act. And that is where you come in. And that is where my friends over at Americans for Free Markets, and I'm happy to partner with on this because it's so important, that's where they come in. And that's why they're thanking President Trump for standing up for freedom and urging Congress to follow his lead. Together, you know what we can do? We can establish a national fair access standard to prevent services from being denied based on political, social, or religious views. I mean, yeah. Duh, right? This will bring clarity and consistency. And you know what? Some long overdue accountability, shall we say, to a very non-transparent industry. So to protect the financial freedom of every American, of every consumer, of every American business, Congress must build on President Trump's leadership here. Update these outdated laws and codify his executive order. Americans for Free Markets is calling on Congress right now to ensure the abuse of power can never happen again. You can learn more today at freemarkets.com. That's freemarkets.com. Who's not for free markets? I'm for free markets all day long. You know, I wasn't going to do this story, but I think it's important to do in light of something that Ted Cruz talked about last night, and this is in regards to my friend Charlie Kirk. I want to pull some sound up for you because, you know, he got out there and he made some very bold statements about, oh, do we have it? We may not have it. We may not have it, unfortunately. So I will paraphrase. Let me do that. I'm going to paraphrase. Ted Cruz got out last night on Fox News and he made some powerful statements about how we actually have to understand where money is coming from that's funding some of these radical organizations. I mean, I don't know how, for example, this group, it's called, this group that's possibly associated with the assassination on Charlie Kirk. Again, this is just all alleged right now, but allegedly and reportedly, the FBI is reviewing this rebel group. It's called Armed Queers of Salt Lake City. And I would just question, like, apparently they were getting some money from the Communist Party of China. And we know that because the leader of that group, you see her, she's an Iranian American. Her parents immigrated from Iran. Her name, I believe, let's see if we can pull that up for you, is, do we have it? Yeah. Oh, good luck pronouncing this. Urmia Fananian. And, you know, the FBI, let's just say they're looking into everything right now, and I can confirm that. According to this story in the Daily Mail, a bureau official said it's certainly possible that she's been brought in for questioning. It did seem strange that they removed all of their social media images so quickly, right? That was a little bit bizarre. Right after Charlie Kirk's assassination, one has to wonder if there was any kind of support for the training. Maybe you don't even need that much training. I've been told by my hunter friends, like, it was a pretty easy shot. But was there any kind of radicalization that went on of Tyler Robinson, courtesy of this group? Here they are learning to shoot. It's a concern, and this is something that, again, Ted Cruz brought up last night because we have to know where money's coming from. Anna Paulina Luna has been all over this, and one of the things that she keeps coming up with coming back to is this Neville Singman and the allegations against him, because he is somebody who is very heavily funding an organization called the Party for Social and Liberation, like quite literally the Communist Party here. Its ideology is communism, Marxism, Leninism. It's very far left, and Neville Singman lives in China and has actually built a business sort of, having all these bots, I'm told, all over the world. In fact, the New York Times did this huge article on him, a global web of Chinese propaganda leads to a U.S. tech mogul. This is relevant because apparently this group, Armed Queers of Salt Lake City, got funding from this group, apparently for their trip to Cuba. So that's a little weird. And then on top of it, as Anna Polina rightly points out in this particular, do I have the, yeah, if you look at Ermaya's Instagram profile, and I have to lean in because I can't see it that well, but it says PSL Web. So she was actually part of that organization that I just told you about that's being funded out of China by that one guy that the New York Times and the Daily Beast and a bunch of other liberal publications did quite a story on. So this PSL, Workers' World Party, I guess it's split from the Workers' World Party, forgive me, but it's another one of those, Workers' Party. This one getting a lot of its bankroll allegedly out of China. Neville Sigmund denies it all. He denied it all in the New York Times article. Anna's trying to get him in. Congresswoman Anna Polina Luna wants to get him in to testify. I mean, if he shows up on U.S. soil, they're immediately going to bring him in for testimony. But right now, he's just out of the country. And he says he has nothing to do with this, but it's peculiar that this particular girl, and again, we don't know much right now, and I'm careful about speculation. Out of respect to Charlie, out of respect to the process here, we don't want to go too overboard in terms of trying to figure out, okay, what's what. But here's what I'm going to go back to. Whatever may have influenced this kid, even if it was just as simple as some chat rooms on Discord, if there's any connection to any of these organizations, we need to know about that. That's actually pretty serious. And, in the case of George Soros, and I know everybody wants to make him the boogeyman, and he comes up a lot. Sure, let's follow that money. I have a feeling it, went to Black Lives Matter and things like that, which aren't great. Believe me, they're no walk in the park. And it really felt like for a while they were inciting some of this really dangerous rhetoric. But if the Chinese are actually trying to, arm a trans movement, I think that's something we need to know about. And by the way, if she's running this organization, doesn't she have to register as a foreign lobbyist or something? Because you're getting money from a foreign source? I find that very peculiar. So a lot of questions, regardless. I mean, maybe this kid was just nuts, right? Obviously nuts, and was not radicalized by any group. Maybe, just felt passionately about his roommate, whatever. Who knows? I doubt that's the case. I actually think that he went down a rabbit hole that a lot of young people sadly are going down and really couldn't ever get out of. And it's an unbelievable tragedy and something I will never forget. We were all here together the day it happened. And there's not a lot to say other than we've got to shore this up, okay? So if we've got foreign actors trying to manipulate our kids, our young people, our universities, no more. We're serious about this. We want you all out. And the FBI is going to find out exactly what went down, not just with Charlie Kirk, but any foreign organization that is trying to manipulate our young people in a negative, bad way. We don't want that. And we're going to find you. And we're going to find all the people that you're funding. And it's going to end. I want to remind you guys to subscribe to the show. I love having you here. We've been doing great. Just doing great. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do. And Don will be very happy because I think we got over 1,000 likes. So leave a comment. If you're watching this on replay, leave a comment. I do read them all. I'll be back with you live again tomorrow. Thank you for subscribing to the Trish Regan Show. Make sure you do that. If you haven't seen me over on Spotify, go check that out as well. We're on video there too. This one's live on YouTube. I love all of you. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.